Hey guys, welcome to Telling the Told and Untold. My name is Tshego. Before we go straight into today's case, I do have a couple of content warnings for you guys. In this video, we do briefly mention suicide as well as domestic violence. So if that's not something you think you're interested in watching, then this video probably isn't for you. So maybe you can watch some of my other videos or just wait for my next upload. Nkululeko Habedi was born on the 17th of October 1977 at Bara Hospital. He went by Nkuli and he would later be known as Flabba. Nkuli spent some of his childhood in Orlando, Soweto, and later moved to Alexandra to live with his parents. He had two brothers, with one only surviving after the eldest died in 1994, and his younger brother's name is Tshego. Tshego says growing up, Nkuli was a very good man. He was a father figure, he was a protector. Other people described him as dramatic, he was chatty, he was a people's person. He came from a very tight-knit family and they described him as the glue of the family. He would be the one that would always bring people together, and that's just who he was. He was also described as cheeky, foul-mouthed, short-tempered, but he was also someone who was filled with so much love. Nkuli gave himself the stage name Flabba after he heard his grandmother, when he was really young, say flabbergasted, and then when he was a bit older he found out what it meant, and that's when he decided that his daily name would be Flabba. Nkuli would also say that Nkuli and Flabba were like two different people. Nkuli was the mama boy, a father, at the time a fiance, and Flabba was the street guy. So sometimes you'd be speaking to Nkuli and Flabba would just come out, or sometimes they would be intertwined, but most of the time they were just like two different people. What I'm trying to say is, growing up, Flabba was always interested in music. He would always be rapping or making beats in his bedroom. Growing up, he was also part of a township group that was known as Boys to Men, and they would just sing old school songs. Also, before he was known as Flabba, he was actually known as Hound, and this is a name that he used while he was part of a duo together with Niche, and Niche is someone who you would know from squatter camp. The two of them went to John Orr Technical High School. Most people would know Flabba from squatter camp, which is a hip-hop group that started in 1996, and it basically started out as sort of like an idea where a group of friends just wanted to make hip-hop music together, and two people got together and then they would invite a third person. The third person would say, you know what, I don't come alone, I come with my two friends. The next person would say, well, I don't come alone, I come with this other person, and that's how Squatter Camp started, and it ended up being a group of 7 people. Its core members were Flabba, Slick, Sugar, Niche, Imfa, Boza, and Nemza. I hope I said their names correctly. Yeah, and a lot of people would always compare them to the US hip-hop group Wu-Tang, because Wu-Tang also had like a large number of members. They had about like 9, so they were very similar. And one song that I think most people will remember from Squatter Camp is Umoya, and it's just like Umoya. Yeah, that's the song. Not much is known about Flabba as well as his estranged wife Mpho, but what we do know is that at the time of today's case they were separated. They had been together for 15 years and had known each other for about 20 years, and Mpho described him as a really good man and said that no one would really know the kind of bond that the two of them shared. They also had a daughter together who they named Lesego, and Nkuli would go on to have another child who was a boy, and they named him Tshego, but he did not have the son with Mpho. In 2006, Nkululeko was at a party in Fourways, and this is when he met a girl named Sindisiwe Manqele, and she was born in either 1989 or 1990. Not much is known about her upbringing, but what we do know is that her parents lived in Kempton Park. She was an only child. Her father's name is Timber, and interestingly enough, he was a retired police captain. And because Cindy was an only child, she was able to receive the best care as well as the best education, so much so that she studied economics at Griffin College, which is a private college in Dublin, Ireland. When Nkuli and Cindy met, they instantly hit it off, and Cindy would later say that that night they had so much fun, and Nkuli made his intentions clear to her from that day. When they first met, Cindy was 17 years old and Nkuli was 29 years old, and he was still married. Cindy would say that she didn't know that he was married. The two of them started a relationship, and it went on for about a year until she was going through the newspaper and she found an article about Nkuli and his wife. So she confronted him, and he told her that the two of them were separated and they just had a lot of issues between them. But despite this, Cindy still ended their relationship, and then she moved back to Ireland where she had been living full time. And even though she did end their relationship, they did eventually rekindle their relationship. Nkuli's friends and family do believe that when the two of them got together, Cindy was not after Nkuli's fame or money. They had a really genuine relationship that was built on love. Nkuli would often tell people that he had a girlfriend whose name was Cindy and that she lived abroad, and when she would come to South Africa to visit, he would go with his family to go fetch her from the airport. She would spend so much time with them, and they really grew to love her as a person. And the way they speak about her like with so much love, because she was just this person that Nkuli really loved, and they thought that one day the two of them would get married. She got along with everyone, including his mom, and they were just happy to see him in such a happy relationship. One of his friends would later say that the last time that he saw him, Nkuli was speaking about Cindy as well as his two children, and basically just the future that he had with her alongside his children, and that kind of just showed his intentions and how much love he had for her. Even though it seemed as though Cindy and Nkuli had a really good relationship, there were things that happened behind closed doors. Someone once said that even though Cindy became a part of the family, there was also this sort of element of obsession in her. She would get upset if Nkuli left with the boys to have fun without her, and when they first started dating, Nkuli only had one child, which was his daughter with his wife Mpho, but then he had another child, and when Cindy found this out, she said to him, and I quote, "Oh, while I'm busy studying in Ireland, you are busy impregnating whores." Even though Cindy would later say that she was not a jealous type of person, other people would say that they saw how jealous she was, especially because Nkuli would get a lot of attention from women, and she had also discovered text messages on his phone where he had been speaking to about 3 other women who he had been involved with. So this caused a lot of issues in their relationship. Cindy would also say that sometimes they would fight a lot because at the time Nkuli wasn't doing that well financially, and she was sort of like the breadwinner in their relationship, and this made him feel insecure, and they would often fight about finances and how she would give attention to men who had money and who could probably support her more than he could. A month before the tragic events of today's case, Flabba had been speaking to his mother on WhatsApp, and she just asked him how he and Cindy were doing, and he forwarded her a message that Cindy had sent him. In the message, Cindy said, "I don't even know why I trusted your cheating ass anyways. After all, you cheated on Tsego's mom with me and God knows who else. You make me sick. I'll call Tembela to come get my stuff from your two-timing ass. I really hope those hoes make you happy and have fun telling your daughter how you effing cheated on a woman that was nothing but nice to all your family. I'm gonna go for a blood test tomorrow morning. You better pray that you didn't give me anything." Flabba's mom tried to WhatsApp her as well as call her, and at first she didn't get through to Cindy, but eventually she did, and it seems as though everything was just sorted out. And even after that, Flabba sent his mom a message and he said, "She's going to kill me," and she just saw it as a joke and she replied, "You're dead meat," with a lot of laughing emojis after that. But little did they know that it was foreshadowing what was to come. On the 8th of March 2015, Cindy, Nkuli's younger brother and cousin Tebang and Mpho went to a club in Sandton because apparently it was someone's birthday. A lot of people saw Cindy and Nkuli fighting. That night they got into an argument. Some people say it's because Nkuli was seen speaking to his ex-girlfriend and this really made Cindy upset. But Cindy says that Nkuli saw her speaking to some men and he got really jealous because for him it's as though she was speaking to men who had more money than she did, and this just led to an argument. Eventually they all went home. They went to the Habedi home in Alex, and it wasn't just Cindy and Nkuli that went home. It was Nkuli's younger brother Tabang with his wife as well as their cousin Mpho. I'm not too sure if there were other people there, but if I'm not mistaken, they were. Once they got home, the argument continued and Nkuli brought up finances and how Cindy had been speaking to men who had money. After this, she says that she ran into the bedroom and locked herself inside. Nkuli then went to the kitchen where he grabbed a knife and he used this knife to try and open the bedroom door. Somehow he managed to get inside the bedroom. I'm not too sure whether it's because Cindy just eventually unlocked the door and let him in, or he managed to open the door with the knife, but he found himself inside the bedroom. When he was in the bedroom, Nkuli was aggressive, both verbally and physically, and Cindy claimed that Nkuli, who weighed 110 kilograms, pinned her on his bed, grabbed her hands and poked and stabbed her in the stomach about 5 times. She only received stitches from one of the wounds, which was about 1.5 centimeters long. She then tried to get away by going to the door, but Nkuli managed to grab her and pull her back in. And this is when she managed to get a hold of the knife and she held it towards him in an attempt to scare him, but it seems as though this didn't frighten him in the slightest. He then grabbed her by the shoulders and this is when she stabbed him. Cindy said that she wanted to hurt him so that he would move away from her and she would be able to get out. So this is when she plunged the knife into him and she didn't think that she would stab him in the heart or lungs. A pathologist would later say that the knife struck his ribcage and then hit his heart. Cindy screamed when she saw Nkuli staggering after she had stabbed him. She then grabbed her phone and she tried calling an ambulance. She also opened the bedroom door and she started screaming. Because this was early in the morning, it was quiet, everyone was asleep, and Mpho, Nkuli's cousin, remembers hearing what he thought was screaming, but he thought that he wasn't hearing properly. He then got up and went to go see where the screaming was coming from, and he found Cindy standing by the door, and Nkuli was lying on the floor. He was not dressed, his pants and shirt were off, and he was just lying in his underwear in a pool of blood. He then ran to go get Tebang, Nkuli's younger brother. He woke him up, and Tebang ran to the bedroom, and when he got there, Nkuli was still alive. He asked what happened, and Cindy replied that she made a mistake and she had stabbed him. At this point, she was also crying uncontrollably. They had also called an ambulance. It's also said that Mpho, Nkuli's estranged wife, also arrived at the house, and when she arrived, it seemed as though Cindy completely changed. She went from someone who was crying hysterically and uncontrollably to almost as though she was a demon that was possessed. She became really angry, she was swearing, and allegedly she said, "You are not the fucking wife. What are you doing here? You are going through a divorce." Around 4 that morning, the police were called, and it took the ambulance about an hour to arrive at the Habedi home in Alex. But unfortunately, when the ambulance arrived, Nkuli had passed away from his injuries. This made Cindy cry even more hysterically, so much so that she found a beer bottle, she broke it, and she tried to slit her wrists. Fortunately, she didn't manage to take her own life, and the police then arrested 26-year-old Sindisiwe Manqele. On the 15th of March 2015, Nkululeko Flabba Habedi was laid to rest at the West Park Cemetery in Joburg after a 3-hour-long service at the Alex Stadium. At the funeral, his daughter Lesego read a poem dedicated to her father, and Mpho, his estranged wife, promised to look after both Lesego as well as his other child, Tshego. She had a friend read out what she had written for Flabba, and in her tribute she wrote, "You once said to me that our love is like the sun. It rises, it shines, but unfortunately it sets for a few hours, and I truly believe that it was on the point of rising again. I still have a long road with Lesego. Please be with me on this road. I am going to miss you." Cindy applied for bail, and the bail application process was completely a mess. And this is because her bail application was held at the Alex court, and Nkuli was from Alex. That is where he lived, and everyone knew him. So people went to the courts and they were upset, they were angry. At some point, Cindy's sister walked out of the court and she tried getting to her car, and people surrounded her. They were screaming no bail, and she struggled to get into her car, but eventually she managed. And because people surrounded her car, she couldn't leave, so she tried reversing and she bumped another car. So because of this whole commotion, her bail application was then taken to the Randburg Magistrates Court. Cindy's attorneys argued that the state's case was weak because at the time it was still ongoing. They were still trying to find evidence. It was also common knowledge that the couple had been arguing. However, there was no definitive evidence as to what they were fighting about. So because of this, Cindy's attorneys argued that she stabbed Flabba in self-defense, and at the time the courts agreed and she was granted bail of 10,000 rand. When the trial started, Cindy's defense was that Nkuli was violent and abusive towards her, and his family was shocked and completely taken aback because as far as they knew or had seen, he had never been physically violent towards her. She also stated that the witnesses who had seen their argument had been intoxicated that night, so what they said couldn't be taken at face value. Also, Tshepang, Nkuli's younger brother, had mixed emotions because for him this was someone that he had grown to love. This was someone that his brother loved, and they thought they would get married one day. So to hear her say these things about his brother and to see her standing trial for murdering his brother was just something that he couldn't wrap his head around. But also in the same breath, he kind of had this understanding that the reason why she was saying all those things was so that she could save her behind and get the lowest possible sentence. In March 2016, Sindisiwe Manqele was found guilty on the count of murder and sentenced to 12 years. There was an 8-year non-parole period. However, her attorneys were granted leave to appeal at the Supreme Court to overturn the non-parole period. Nkuli's family felt as though 12 years was not enough. And his younger brother Tshepang felt as though Cindy didn't mean to kill Nkuli and that it was an honest mistake. The only problem was just that she wouldn't own up to what she had done.
Like I said, relieved that my boy has been vilified, relieved that the judge saw through him.
Nkuli's mom did go see Cindy in prison to get closure, and it said that Cindy did apologize to her, and she also asked to see some of Nkuli's family members so that she could apologize to them too for the hurt that she had caused them. It said that after Nkuli's mom met with Cindy for closure, she kind of went through a lot. She stopped speaking and she just wasn't coping well, and they think it's because seeing her just kind of brought back all those feelings and hurt and anger she felt after her son's death. On the 24th of May 2022, so 6 years after Flabba's death, Sindisiwe was granted parole. After her release, she finally showed the public her face, and she went on the well-known MacG podcast and Chill, where she told her story about how she met Nkuli, what happened that night, and her life behind bars. She described being in prison as one of the worst experiences of her life. She spoke about how she would spend 18 hours in her cell and how she tried to make the most of her prison experience by studying law, partaking in various prison skills development programs, also taking up anger management courses. If you guys would like to watch that interview, I will link it down in the description box below. Nkululeko, Flabba, Habedi's family want him to be remembered for the music that he made and the family man that he was. His life was cut short when he still had a huge impact to make on the music industry, and he also never got to see his children grow up.
Give Flabba. Nazo, Sasha Steen,
And that's it for today's case. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out my channel a lot. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.